those individuals allegedly included high-ranking supervisors in the business, personal assistants, security staff, and household staff.
Today in a New York federal courtroom, Sean Diddy Combs told the judge he was, quote, a little nervous. The rap mogul's criminal trial began this morning. He is trafficking, racketeering, and more.
In a bombshell twist that has Hollywood and the music industry reeling, the courtroom battle of the year just escalated into a full-blown spectacle. Sean Diddy Combs, the once untouchable mogul of hip-hop, now finds himself at the center of a legal inferno that threatens to dismantle his entire empire. And if the stakes weren't high enough, the courtroom drama took a jaw-dropping turn when the judge brought in none other than Ben Chew, the legal mastermind who famously helped Johnny Depp crush Amber Heard in their high-profile defamation trial. The move sent shockwaves through the courtroom and straight into Diddy's camp, sparking a behind-the-scenes meltdown that reportedly left the music mogul fuming.
The defense wanted to propose a question on, after the potential jurors filled out their questionnaire, have they seen any news media, any documentaries, anything just relating to a news medium, and whether or not they saw it in between them filling out the questionnaire to Monday morning when they go to jury selection. So essentially meaning
Diddy, accustomed to being the puppet master of his own narrative, clearly didn't see this coming. Sources close to the trial say his reaction was nothing short of explosive. The introduction of Chew, with his reputation for swaying juries in cases drenched in public spectacle, appears to have thrown Diddy's defense team into a tailspin. One insider claimed the moment Chew's name was mentioned, Diddy turned to his lawyers with a look that could only be described as panic mixed with sheer disbelief. For a man who built his career on controlling the narrative, this was a devastating blindside. But why this particular move? Why deploy a lawyer best known for navigating the murky waters of celebrity trials to consult on jury selection? It's a strategic masterstroke by the prosecution, and the implications are clear. They're playing to win. Bringing in Chew sends a message that no detail will be overlooked, no psychological angle left unexplored. This isn't just about evidence. It's about the optics, the emotional undercurrent, the subtle cues that can sway a jury's perception in ways that hard facts sometimes cannot, and that, for Diddy, is an existential threat. The tension in the courtroom was palpable as the jury selection process crawled forward. Over 3 grueling days, dozens of potential jurors were grilled, dismissed, or reluctantly accepted. Each one was a potential landmine for the defense, and the stakes couldn't be higher. From marketing executives to social workers, the pool of jurors represents a cross-section of America's cultural psyche, and every single one of them will be asked to weigh in on allegations so inflammatory they've already ignited a media firestorm. And then there's the wild card, Cassie Ventura. Diddy's former girlfriend turned accuser looms like a specter over the proceedings. Her potential testimony is shaping up to be the trial's most explosive element, especially with whispers that the infamous hotel video, captured in all its unflinching brutality, might be played in court. The mere prospect of that footage being shown has sent tremors through the jury pool. One prospective juror described the video as upsetting and admitted it would be hard to unsee. Others struggled with their ability to remain impartial, given the gravity of the allegations. The defense's strategy? To frame the video as a snapshot of a toxic relationship rather than evidence of something more sinister. But let's not forget, this isn't a civil suit. This isn't a civil suit. This is a federal criminal trial, and the stakes are life-altering.
In her civil lawsuit, Cassie said that she was the victim of abuse, assault, and at the hands of Diddy.
Behind closed doors, the atmosphere in Diddy's camp has reportedly become increasingly tense. Insiders describe a man who is both enraged and deeply unsettled. He's used to being the kingpin, the man pulling the strings, not the one being scrutinized under a microscope. And yet, here he is, facing a legal lineup that includes some of the most decorated prosecutors in the country. Every move he makes in that courtroom, every fidget, every glance, every whispered word to his attorneys will be dissected and analyzed, not just by the jury, but by a public hungry for answers. And it's not just the legal team feeling the strain. Diddy's personal life has been thrust into the spotlight in ways he could never have imagined. His family, once a fixture at his side, was notably absent during the latest round of hearings. Speculation is rampant. Are they distancing themselves? Or is this a calculated move to avoid drawing further attention? Either way, the optics aren't great for a man fighting to salvage what's left of his reputation.
That the defense kind of pointed out that they will be adding 2 defense attorneys. We only thought initially it was 1. But one thing that stood out to me when Mark Agnifilo was talking about this was he said that these defense attorneys are in the courtroom right now. I didn't see Mark Garagos in that courtroom, but what I did see is 2 defense attorneys that have been there when Brian Steele came on board, and those 2 defense attorneys.
Meanwhile, the prosecution is playing a long game. Bringing in Chew wasn't just a tactical decision. It was a psychological one. This is a man who understands how to navigate the labyrinth of public opinion while zeroing in on the emotional heartbeat of a jury. During the Depp trial, Chu's ability to frame narratives and humanize his client was nothing short of surgical. And now, he's lending that expertise to a case that is already a powder keg of public fascination and outrage. Diddy's team, led by the formidable Mark Agnifilo, is no slouch, but the addition of Chu tips the scales in ways that are impossible to ignore. And let's not forget the jurors themselves. This isn't just a trial, it's a cultural moment. The pool includes everyone from a marketing executive who confessed to liking a social media post, mocking a social media post mocking the case, to a woman who admitted she'd seen the infamous hotel video. Each one brings their own biases, their own experiences, their own preconceived notions. As Ben Chu himself pointed out in a rare comment to the media, the goal isn't just to find jurors who claim they can be fair, it's to find jurors who can withstand the psychological and emotional weight of the evidence they're about to see.
The judge is hopeful that that could be concluded as soon as Wednesday, with opening statements in the case beginning next week and then the beginning of the evidence. So Combs has pleaded not guilty. He has said, his lawyers have said, that all of these allegations are the prosecutors trying to criminalize his sexual activity that they say was entirely consensual.
For Diddy, that's a nightmare scenario. His team is banking on a narrative of consensual relationships and a misunderstood lifestyle. But how do you sell that story to a jury that's already been exposed to some of the most damning allegations in recent memory? How do you counter the visceral impact of surveillance footage that, once seen, is impossible to forget? The defense is clearly banking on their ability to poke holes in the prosecution's case, to cast doubt on the motivations of the accusers, to shift the focus away from the man at the center of it all. But with every new revelation, every strategic move by the prosecution, that task becomes exponentially harder. And then there's the looming specter of the missing witness, dubbed Victim 3 in court documents. Her absence has thrown yet another wrench into an already chaotic trial. Prosecutors have admitted they're struggling to locate her, raising questions about what she might have revealed and why she's suddenly gone off the grid. For Diddy, it's a potential lifeline. For the prosecution, it's a glaring hole in an otherwise meticulously constructed case. But make no mistake, this trial is far from over, and the stakes are only getting higher.
Find her. Right, her attorney is trying to find her, and her attorney has said that she may not be willing to come and testify anyway, so be interesting. Okay, we're moving on.
As the jury selection grinds on, the courtroom has become a pressure cooker of conflicting narratives, high-stakes strategy, and raw human emotion. For Diddy, this isn't just a battle for his freedom. It's a battle for his freedom. It's a battle for his legacy, his empire, his very identity. And with every passing day, the walls seem to be closing in. And just when you think the stakes couldn't escalate any higher, the prosecution unveiled a move that sent Diddy's legal team scrambling to regain their footing. It wasn't just the introduction of Ben Chu or the jury pool's raw reactions to the evidence. It was the steady drip of damning details, each more explosive than the last. This trial isn't just about the allegations anymore. It's about the unraveling of a man who spent decades meticulously crafting an untouchable image. And now, that image is cracking wide open.
The plea offer that came up in the last hearing where the government said we did offer him a deal or an offer, I should say, and that he rejected it. And now it's official, and he said it to the court as well, too. You know, he stood up. He said that he consulted with this about his attorneys, and it seems like they're planning, or not even seems like they are, they're rolling the dice by going to trial.
For years, Diddy has thrived on the power of perception. The world saw him as a mogul, a trendsetter, a cultural icon who turned bad boy records into an empire. But behind the scenes, prosecutors argue was a man who wielded his influence like a weapon. The courtroom is now becoming a stage for revealing the mechanics of that power, how it was used, abused, and ultimately, how it could be his undoing. The prosecution's strategy has been surgical. They've painted a picture of a man who thrived on control, not just in his relationships, but in every facet of his life. Witnesses are expected to describe a world where loyalty wasn't just demanded, it was enforced. Employees, friends, even romantic partners. Everyone in Diddy's orbit allegedly knew there were rules, and breaking them came with consequences. We're talking about everything from financial incentives for staying silent to whispered threats that might have kept people in line for decades. And now, as these stories come to light, the question isn't just whether the jury will believe them, it's whether anyone in Diddy's inner circle will dare to break ranks.
This investigation is ongoing, and I encourage anyone with information about this case to come forward and to do it quickly.
And speaking of breaking ranks, let's talk about the witnesses who are still standing. Cassie Ventura may be the most high-profile name, but she's far from the only one. The prosecution has lined up a parade of individuals who claim to have first-hand knowledge of Diddy's alleged actions. Each one adds another layer to the narrative, creating a mosaic of accusations that's hard to ignore. These aren't just random anecdotes. They're pieces of a puzzle that, when assembled, reveal a pattern of behavior stretching back years, maybe even decades. But the courtroom isn't the only place where Diddy's past is catching up with him. Several civil lawsuits have painted an equally troubling picture of his alleged behavior over the years. One particularly shocking claim came from a former employee who accused Diddy of creating a toxic work environment so extreme it bordered on psychological warfare. The plaintiff alleged that employees were regularly subjected to verbal tirades, impossible demands, and retaliation if they failed to meet his expectations. In one instance, Diddy allegedly berated a staff member for hours over a minor mistake, reducing them to tears, all while guests at one of his infant's parties looked on. The lawsuit was ultimately settled out of court, but the allegations linger as a chilling backdrop to the current case.
Now, to the latest on the arrest of Sean Diddy Combs. This one has so many people talking. The disgraced music mogul facing federal racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking charges. Both the prosecution and defense teams are set to discuss the next phase of action following the indictment, as investigators work to determine potential co-conspirators. But how exactly did we get here?
And then there's the lawsuit filed by a former yacht crew member who claimed her time working for Diddy was nothing short of a nightmare. She alleged that during a luxury yacht party, she was subjected to demeaning tasks and inappropriate comments that left her feeling humiliated and unsafe. The lawsuit also described an incident where Diddy allegedly lashed out at the crew, throwing objects and issuing threats when things didn't go his way. While the case didn't make it to trial, the details align eerily with the prosecution's portrayal of a man who used fear and intimidation to maintain control. Perhaps the most damning of these lawsuits is the one brought by a former videographer who worked closely with Diddy during the height of his career. According to the lawsuit, the videographer claimed he was coerced into filming and editing private footage that allegedly included compromising and highly inappropriate material. The plaintiff further alleged that Diddy kept this footage as leverage, using it to control those around him and ensure their silence. This case, like many others, was quietly settled, but it raises disturbing questions about the lengths Diddy allegedly went to in order to protect his empire.
And the judge said that, he seemed to be taking this kind of matter seriously. Now, I will just kind of preface it and say it. I haven't seen the documentary, but it's not out of the realm, or it's not out of the norm that she even went on this documentary as well, too, because she had previously gone on another documentary and kind of talked about her client's accusations against Diddy as well, too. So I was surprised that they brought up this particular documentary. Again, I don't know the extent of what she had said, but the defense seemed very annoyed in a way. And
even more troubling are the whispers of other lawsuits that never saw the light of day, reportedly buried under layers of non-disclosure agreements and settlements. Multiple sources have hinted at a pattern of legal threats and financial payoffs aimed at silencing potential accusers before they could speak out. While none of these cases are directly tied to the current trial, they contribute to a growing narrative that suggests a long history of alleged misconduct. The prosecution may not be able to introduce these claims as evidence, but the public is certainly taking note, and so undoubtedly are the jurors. But here's where it gets even murkier. The defense has made it clear they're not going down without a fight. They've already begun a counter-narrative aimed at discrediting the witnesses, questioning their motives, and casting doubt on their stories. It's a classic strategy, but in a case this high profile, it's also a risky one. The jury will have to decide whether these are credible accounts or opportunistic grabs for attention and financial gain. And let's be real, when you're dealing with a celebrity of Diddy's stature, the line between victim and opportunist can get blurry fast.
I would think possibly, it's the federal government building a case against you. Maybe you would go for the lesser offer, but again, that would be having to admit that he did something wrong. And the defense has always maintained that he is innocent. He has done nothing wrong, that this is just, these are just ex-girlfriends that are mad, like just all these types of things that the defense is arguing. But
the missing witness, referred to in court documents as Victim 3, has only added fuel to the fire. Her absence raises as many questions as it answers, and both sides are spinning it to their advantage. For the prosecution, it's a setback, an important piece of their case that might never see the light of day. For the defense, it's a potential lifeline, a gap in the narrative they can exploit to sow doubt. But let's not forget, the court of public opinion is watching, and the optics of a key witness vanishing into thin air are troubling, to say the least. Then there's the issue of evidence, or more specifically, the chilling details of what's already been uncovered. The courtroom has yet to see the full extent of the videos, messages, and other materials that prosecutors claim to have in their arsenal. But make no mistake, the mere mention of these items has been enough to send shockwaves through the jury pool. Imagine being told you'll have to sit through hours of footage that allegedly captures some of the most disturbing moments of a man's private life. It's a psychological minefield, and it's not just the jury that's feeling the pressure. Every revelation, every piece of evidence adds another layer of tension that's palpable in the courtroom.
I suppose it could be coincidence. I don't think it's coincidence, and especially given the nature of the case.
Yes.
Because when you look at who is examining these various witnesses, especially female alleged victims, of which there will be 4.
And let's not overlook the role of the media in this circus. Every day, new headlines dissect the trial's latest developments, turning it into a spectacle that's as much about public perception as it is about legal strategy. Diddy's team has been working overtime to control the narrative, but in an age of viral moments and 24/7 news cycles, that's an uphill battle. Every misstep, every flash of emotion, every whispered conversation caught on camera becomes fodder for speculation. And while the jury is supposed to remain impartial, let's be honest, how do you tune out the noise when the whole world is watching? What's perhaps most striking is the sheer scale of this trial. This isn't just a legal battle, it's a cultural reckoning. It's a moment that forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about power, privilege, and accountability. How did someone like Diddy, a man who seemed to have it all, end up here? And what does it say about the industry that enabled him? These are the questions that linger in the air, unspoken, but impossible to ignore.
The public realm, this is very significant, just from who we associate Diddy being and everything we've seen him do over the decades. Like you said, this is quite the downfall to go from, we saw the mansions back in March that were raided by the feds. So to go from living in those mansions to being in the jail cell right now, I think it really underscores the magnitude of what he's facing and the weight of the federal government.
As the trial moves forward, the stakes couldn't be higher. For Diddy, this is a fight for his freedom, his legacy, and perhaps even his humanity. For the prosecution, it's a chance to send a message that no one, no matter how powerful, is above the law. And for the rest of us, it's a front row seat to a drama that feels almost Shakespearean in its scope, a tale of ambition, betrayal, and the high cost of hubris. So, what do you think? Is this the beginning of the end for Diddy, or will he find a way to turn the tide? Could this trial expose more than just the man at its center, pulling back the curtain on an industry that's long been accused of protecting its own? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and trust us, you're going to want to stick around for what comes next. This story is far from over.